Good morning again. Oh, you already know what time it is. Target individual CJBK. It is 2:20 a.m. Wednesday. I think it's like September 7th. I think either 7th or 8th. I forgot. I don't remember. So, this video is about another dream manipulation. And I'm gonna just tell you this. Your flesh, your body, is merely just a vessel containing your spiritual energy. Your flesh, your body, belongs to the earth. Your spirit does not belong to the earth. Your body belongs to the earth, meaning anything that happens to your body on this earth is meant to happen. And then for it will be returned back to the earth, whether buried or burnt to ashes and scattered. This is why spiritual scriptures and cultures, they teach you not to fear death, because they know and they acknowledge the fact that you have two bodies, your physical body and your spiritual body. Now, this video in particular is about how I just handled and how I basically saw, felt, and accepted everything that I just told you. I have looked fear in the eyes. I have felt the fear. I saw the anger. I saw the violence. I saw the demons. I saw the animosity. I saw everything that is of the world and everything about humanity that explains why God destroyed humanity in the first, beginning centuries of corruption, when the fallen angels had came down and taught mankind everything that mankind knows today. My dream manipulation tonight was merely about things that happen to people, whether in prison or out in the street. It was all about intimidation, demoralization, humiliation, annihilation, and just straight manifestation, I guess. Tonight's dream manipulation was about a gang of people who basically, I don't even remember what the environment was. I don't even know, I don't even remember if it was a room somewhere or if I was outside somewhere. But it was basically about a gang of people who held me down and then sliced up and carved up my face. I've even heard one of them say, I want to carve him all the way up from his neck all the way up to the top of his face, or from like the top of it, from his face all the way across his neck, stuff like that. And it's like, I know these things happen. I've seen someone slice before. I know these things happen. Did I ever think at some point in my life it would happen to me? Not necessarily. Because a majority or just about all my life, I've never conducted myself to be put into a situation where I would actually have to face something like that, at least in a physical sense. Until I began getting targeted. So, in the dream, I found myself, like in my dreams sometimes, I've experienced a lot of violence in my dreams, because basically what's happening is the people who have control of this technology, like some TIs, they believe it's the military, or it's or it's like the police, or it's their neighbors, or whatever the case may be. No, mine, the people who have access to this technology are the very same people that we see shooting each other, stabbing each other, raping innocent women and children, killing people in broad daylight, people who basically walk up to police officers and shoot them while they're sitting in their squad car. An officer just walking around controlling the beat, somebody run up behind them and shoot them in the back of the head. I'm talking, and then this is the part that's gonna really upset them. I'm talking about the streets. I'm talking about the people, that average everyday people, try their best not to fear, but they know it's real. They know that they're always just one wrong glance away from interacting with, or basically they are the people that whenever somebody who grew up around a particular environment, the moment they get some money, they leave that neighborhood. They leave that environment as fast as they can so that they can live amongst themselves and kill each other. Now, unlike most TIs, I've accepted the fact that I can't go to the police for help. Why? Because the police are, one, I don't believe they have the technology or the capabilities to actually help people in our situation. This is why they always kind of get to the scene after the fact. Two, they're more times than likely are already aware of what's happening, but they feel and know that they can't do it, that they can't do anything about it because they just don't have the resources, or they don't have enough people to actually be able to do anything about it, because it'll just basically be like when like a one-man army, or it'll be like when a good cop sees a crooked cop doing something, and then when they report the crooked cop or whistleblow on the corruption in a precinct or in a department, the rest of the entire department or precinct then turns on the cop who has a moral conscience. And then three, the police can't actually do anything because they don't want to do anything, because they're actually benefiting off of it too. They're benefiting off of it too. So I don't go to the police about this because I feel like they can't do anything, because there's too much fear. There's not enough God in their hearts. And then for them to actually find a good one, and then to get them to actually want to look into what is happening, you would have to explain to them so much about, you need to find somebody who's a spectrum analyzer expert. You need to find somebody who understands near infrared technology. You need to find someone who can basically understand quantum computing. You need to find someone who can understand holograms and how the brain can basically decode, signal transmissions of frequencies, and then be able to visualize images that were coded up from a computer screen somewhere, and then transmit, and then now the person actually sees it. I looked fear in the face, and now in my dreams, I used to actually want to fight back or try to defend myself. But then I realized I'm doing myself a disservice by trying so hard to fight back. I said I'm doing a disservice because I realized in order for change to come, someone has to be willing to sacrifice their life so that the world can see evil in broad daylight. Someone has to be able to sacrifice their flesh so that the world can be exposed to the atrocities of what is happening. Just like how the Jews were being exterminated and just basically, just slaughtered like cattle by the Nazis. It took the images of people seeing that for change to come about. Just like how during the civil rights movement, Martin Luther King was just like, don't fight back. Let them do exactly what they're doing, and stand with God. And I'm getting chills as I'm saying this because I realize that's the only way change can really happen in this world. The reason why, and I understand that fully now, the reason why Martin Luther King didn't fight back is because he knew that there were cameras around. He knew that other people had to see what was going on. So he said, don't fight back. Let those monsters be exactly who they are. You walk with God. Know and understand that your body belongs to this earth, but your spirit belongs to God. So everything that they do to you, it will be used as proof of the monstrosities that are among or happening in mankind. So I know I probably could have easily just fought back and, made myself do something to basically even not just harm, but kill those who are trying to attack me in dream manipulations. But then I told myself, no, that's the easy thing to do, is to actually fight back. People don't realize how hard it truly is to not allow yourself to become violent just like them. People don't realize how hard it is to actually turn the other cheek. People don't realize how hard it is to actually sacrifice your flesh so that at some point it can actually be the spark that is needed to influence the right souls who didn't know that this was happening to people. So I told myself, let go, Chris. If they want to carve you up, let them carve you up. Because at the end of the day, it only proves every single thing that you've been saying about them. It proves every single thing that they've been doing in this digital world and outside of this digital world. It proves every single thing that you've been mentioning, that you've been trying to avoid in your life. It proves wickedness in dark places, love to intimidate, induce fear, and to swallow up righteous people, God's people. But here's the thing. The body is the sacrificial lamb. The body itself is what's meant to take on the blunts of the world. It is the body that people hold so tight, so dearly, so possessive over. It is the body that the demons and spirits want to gain a hold of, because we're talking about interdimensional beings who are trying to cross over into the physical world. We're talking about interdimensional beings that can't necessarily interact with our physical world until they can actually gain possession with a human flesh body, so then they can interact with our world. Because a spirit can't interact with a human being by themselves unless that human being's vibrational energy was so low that they basically invited that spirit into their mind, and then they begin to move accordingly to that spirit. So you think about how much violence is in the world and how easy it is for some people to be susceptible to be violent. That is because their bodies are in possession of a violent spirit. How easy it is for someone to decide, oh, I want to carve this dude's face up. Oh, I want to slice this woman's face up. Oh, I want to rape this person. Oh, I want to kill this person. Oh, how easy it is to actually commit the act. That is because there is a spirit riding within their body. And that God-like energy that they're supposed to have within them is diminished. That's why it's so easy for them to commit these acts. That is why there's so much violence in the world, because so many of these people that are supposed to be human beings have lost their godliness. They have lost their godliness. They have lost their godliness. This is why people that run in these certain environments, they live very short lives. And if they don't live a short life, their quote unquote free life is very short lived. Why? Because their vibrational energy is so low, they done allowed a spirit of violence, hatred, anger, sexual prowess, or lustfulness. They allowed this spirit to basically take possession of their body, and they are so low in their vibrational and spiritual energy that they can't even feel or acknowledge the presence that a spirit has taken possession of them. This is one of the reasons why sometimes when a truly righteous and godly person comes across this person who has had a history of committing these violent acts, and then when they talk to this person, and for whatever reason, if this person who has spent his life in causing so many acts against other people, when they finally come across someone who is truly righteous and someone who is truly godly, and then when that righteous and godly person opens his mouth and see right through them and then begin to talk to them, that person who is so used to committing these acts, they either do one of two things. One, anger, frustration, and hostility begin to build up like a volcano. They get mad at you because you see right through them. And it's because when you are a righteous and godly person, you see right through all facades. And you not only see the physical person that you're looking at, but you also are looking right at the demon, the deity, or the spirit that is working within them. You're looking right at them. But you also are looking at that person's godliness, and that person's godliness is just this very, very small, dim light. And you still see that dim light. That's why there are people who say, I still see the good in people. It's because, I just gotta chill. That's how I know God is working with me on this one. I see the good in people still. Even though it's such a very small, dim light, I can still see the good in people. This is why, even though I grew up in the hood and I live around all the things that, most people, once they get some money, they running out as fast as they can, not even looking back. I still see the good in all the people that's working within the street. I know people who are in the street that are actually pretty good people, but you cross them or you give them a reason to want to, basically prove themselves that they're not going to let you roll over them. It's nothing, because that spirit is right there with them. That spirit is there in them. That spirit already has a home with them. That's why it's so easy to go from a smile to a frown so quick, like the snap of a finger or the blink of an eye, because that spirit is right there with them. So tonight, what I actually experienced was basically being hunted down, just like Christians of old or righteous people of old. It don't even really matter what your religion is. If you're a righteous person, a righteous or godly person, you know, the spirits come looking for you. Those dark spirits, they come looking for you. Why? Because they're trying to create a hell on earth. That's basically it. They're trying to create a hell on earth. So when they decided that they was gonna figure out how they were gonna carve me up, and there was all these hands trying to hold my head still. Then there was one guy, he walked up to me and tried and just like sliced my face from up to down. And then another guy walked, basically, like, I don't know, I think somehow I ended up on the floor, and now they're holding my head still, and now they're actually like carving my face, almost as if like they were trying to carve, like surgically remove my face off of my body. In that moment, like, I felt the fear frequency. I literally told myself, I'm not even going to fight it off. I'm going to feel it. I am going to feel it. I am going to allow it to register or resonate so I can feel it. Now, I have not laid hands on another person in a violent sense since the age of like 14 years old, 14 or 15, because I don't like being violent. That fight I won too, but I don't like being violent. And it reminds me of what my friend that lives like down the street from me, he's being targeted too. But he's a military vet, so he is already, he is already like aware of these things. Like, he's already seen true violence. And, he has PTSD and things of that sort. And then he's like, and, even after he left the service, he, did like armored security work and things of that sort. But not even just him. Other veterans, like I know another veteran who was in the Air Force. This guy, he talks a lot about, the things that, he learned in the service and the things he's capable of, and how he has a lot of anger in him, but he's been working on it. I have always tried my best to not put myself in environments or in situations where I may actually have to let that anger or any type of like violence consume me or let it go. Why? Because I actually fear taking the life of another person. And I have done so much because I don't want to displease God by taking a life. I have done so much to keep myself from being a violent person. And I always used to tell myself, Lord, keep me close. Because I fear for the person who come against me. Because if I decide that I am going to fight back and defend myself, because I would never antagonize, I would never be the starter, I would never instigate anything. I always try my best to diffuse the situation. But I always tell myself that I fear and pray for the person that actually come against me because I have been so blessed in my entire life that I never truly actually went through much of the things that I see people all around me go through. Why? Because I have been using my spiritual discernment very well to avoid the situations that they experience. And God has been blessing me every single day. God has been blessing me every single day. Whether it's somebody shoot me a look that I didn't like, but I'm not going to say anything. Why? Because it's just a look. Or maybe I walk by and I hear someone say something, or talk about how my clothes look or whatever. I'm not gonna allow myself to physically act against something that someone said. I can't allow myself to lower my vibration to engage in that type of mentality. Why? Because the moment I lower my vibration and I engage in that mentality, that is when that spirit that's been tracking me and following behind me, that is when they'll have their opening to basically come into my body and take possession and then force me to become a violent person. So I must always be a master protecting my peace and learn to ignore the things that don't truly matter. Now, I always told myself, I fear for the person who actually tries to physically cause me harm and I can't actually escape the situation. If I feel my back is in the corner and I feel like I have to defend myself, I fear for actually taking that person's life. Not just only disarm the person, but I actually fear taking that person's life. Why? Because I may not be able to stop. Because I have done so well at not engaging in behavior that is all around me. Then the type of activity that people cheer for and they're so happy to see people get into. We talk about how, you know, we love to see, in movies when, shooting scenes or stabbing scenes or fight scenes, da 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 da. But when it actually happens, you have to acknowledge just how far a person actually goes to the point where they decide that they will be comfortable feeling their hand possessing something sharp that then enters another person's flesh. and then they basically don't feel anything anymore. Like they don't feel anything. It's like when someone acknowledges the fact that at some point, when they openly decide that they're going to engage in this violent behavior, they no longer feel anything. They go completely numb. I don't ever want myself to get to that point where I'm no longer just defending myself, but I am numb. To go numb means you have no restraint anymore. To go numb is you literally don't care about the life of another person or being, or creature rather. I mean, when you think about how we're killing and how we kill insects and bugs and stuff like that, whether it's a mosquito, we don't even necessarily think about it in a sense that that was that insect or that bug or that animal basically had a living energy about them, and we took it from them very easily. But yet we somehow hold humans at such high regard, or at least some of us do. So I told myself for years, I would hate to be the person to be in front of me the day I decide to go numb, and I asked God to just keep me close. I said, Jesus Christ, just keep me close. Continue to empty my tank, because there's a lot of things that I've not just suppressed. I used to suppress a lot, but then I said it's better to just release it and do the things that I love that doesn't involve, like causing harm to myself, or do the things that I love that, can basically give a breath of life to another person. So I told myself for years, I pray for the person that pushes me to that numbing feeling, because I have been blessed enough to not actually have to engage in violent activity. Because I feel like if I were to actually allow myself to go numb, I'm not just only attacking that person, but I'm attacking every single person who tried to do something to me or tried to get me to lower my frequency for the last, let me see, I said 15 years old. So I've been avoiding conflict or physical confrontation for about 17, 18 years. So I always told myself, I pray for the person who tries to cause harm to me or whatever. Because if God and the holy angels are with me, that gun or that knife, it may not be the fatal blow that is needed to take me out. Because if it doesn't, I hope I don't go numb. Because then I would take that person's life. Now, I will never antagonize and I will never instigate, because that is not godly. That is not righteous. That is not who or where I am in my life. My vibrational frequency is so high. It's so high. That is why for 18 years I have not had conflict in my life, even though I lived all around conflict. I hear people having conflict all around me. I live right next to or above or below people who have conflict, but yet for 18 years I have not had conflict. Because I keep my vibrational spirit, my vibrational energy high. So high, so high. And even though I live among people who have so much conflict in their lives, I make sure that whoever is having conflict, I make sure I'm still cordial, I'm still neighborly, I'm still nice. I still keep the peace with everybody who is going through conflict. Why? Because even they need to see what it's like to be around somebody who has an extremely high vibrational spirit. Because if they don't see what that looks like, they won't ever realize that it's possible. They won't ever see that it's possible for them to be able to obtain the same thing. So, this is why, for the majority of my life, I did my best to not be consumed by the very same energy that works around me. So I tell myself, I am not going to engage in the same activity. I am going to be above it. And then if that energy decides it wants to take my life for being righteous and godly, then the world needs to be in view, just like how the civil rights movement forced the world to see what was happening to people of color, just like how many investigators and journalists and human rights activists exposed the Nazis for what they were doing, just like how many people in parts of China were exposing what was happening to them out there, or what was happening to, and many human rights activists were exposing what was happening in Africa to, the genocides and things of that sort. Someone has to allow the world to see what is happening to the righteous, the godly, and the peaceful. Because every time the righteous, the godly, and the peaceful is taken out, it creates a spark. It creates a spark. So I told myself, you know what? I am not going to fear, but I am going to acknowledge the fact that if something does happen to me in this physical world, it will create a spark. And it will be the spark that is needed to create a change. So I said, you know what? They want to operate in darkness. Well, I'm going to make sure I'm standing in the light at all times. I am going to make sure that my vibrational frequency, my aura is so bright that even if someone tries to stick their hand out from the darkness just to touch me, the world will even see that finger that stretched out from the darkness. I will expose every ounce of darkness that is working within this world. And if anything happens to me, it will only prove everything that I have been saying. Now, if something were to happen to my channel, like it gets basically taken down or somebody reports it or whatever, if I'm still alive, I'll just basically make another one. I'll make another one and I'll tell what happened. But if I'm not alive, then that just basically proves, and hopefully people are making like screen recordings, or they're making copies of my videos or whatever. I don't know. This is why I post online and not just like on some like I don't just have like I don't just have like a hard drive where I'm just saving all this stuff. I mean, maybe it'll probably be good if I did, because then, if something does happen to me and there's all this other evidence, well, I mean, I got other things that I have, especially like little, clues and stuff of places I've been, and people didn't realize I left a note in their home that I was there. So whatever happens to me, I am going to be the spark that is needed to create change. And right now, there are so many people working with dark forces that are trying to protect and cover what is happening with this technology. There are people in political positions and government positions who are exposing what is happening with this technology. There are people out there who are doing it, but their voice is basically being muted or muffled, or they're basically being killed. But here's the best part about it. Every time someone gets killed, every time a righteous, morally right, or someone who is very ethical gets killed, it sends off a flag. Every time a righteous person gets killed, it raises a flag. And every time a person who is morally right gets killed, it catches the attention of everyone else who is either asleep or those who are also morally right, and they are now catching wind of another cause that someone else was fighting for. So whatever happens to me, just know that it all will work out, not just for my good, but for the good of others. So whatever happens to me, and I'm going to repeat that again because they're watching, they're listening. Whatever happens to me, all of you, it's not only going to work out for my good, but it's going to work out for the good of everyone that is being tormented with this technology. Everyone that is having their homes broken, everyone that is being, physically touched through gang stalking or even poison, whatever the case may be. My life, or the threat to my life, will not go in vain. Vengeance is mine, said the Lord. So no matter what happens, and I told them at the very beginning when they introduced themselves through V2K, I was like, look, the very first day, the very first night that they tried to induce the spirit of fear in me, and I realized what was happening, that it wasn't like necessarily demons per se, or because maybe I had, drank a little too much, or maybe I was watching. When I realized it was people, I told them I don't know what y'all doing. I don't know how y'all able to do this. I don't know who you are. Just leave me alone. And I hope by the next morning that you're not here. Because I don't want to have to do what I'm going to have to do if I feel like I can't maintain my peace anymore. So now what they're all talking about is like, oh, that's a snitch, that's a snitch, that's a snitch. But think about it like this. If you allow darkness to just continue to flourish, there will be no light for the future generations. You can't have darkness just completely taking over everything on earth, because then that means every living person, every living creature, every living plant or whatever will be destroyed because there's no light left on this earth. And in that sense, if it gets to that point, God might as well just destroy all of humanity again. But God promised that he won't destroy humanity again. So, in essence, this is why there is a cycle. This is why there is a cycle. This is why history repeats itself. This is why they say every 1,000 years or so, there's a shift between how much darkness can rule over the world and then how much light. Like every 1,000 years, the beast is basically set free or something like that, and then like Lucifer basically takes control of the world, or the devil takes control of the world for 1,000 years. But then when he realized his 1,000 years are almost up, and then it's time for Christ, or it's time for, the light of God to take its rightful place and rule over the world for 1,000 years. This is when everything that is wrong with humanity begin to spike even more. Why? Because they are aware that their time is running out. This is why you see a lot more violence. This is why you see a lot more suffering, because all of these spirits that are now working and in control of many of the things that are happening in the world, they realize their time is running out. So they're trying to get as many souls as possible. They're trying to capture as many people as possible and get them to condemn themselves, because once the time is up, there's going to be a massive snatching of souls. And they're going to be ripped from their vessels, and they're going to be brought straight to hell. And those gates are going to be locked and closed, and all of those souls are going to be facing an eternity of pain, fear, disparity, all of these things. They're going to be facing all this for an eternity until their spiritual energy is no longer there. So I told myself in my dream tonight, I am not going to fear them in the digital world, and I am not going to fear them in the physical world. So my sacrifice is my flesh. I will sacrifice my flesh for the peace that can be brought, the peace and the goodness that can be brought forth for people in the future, the children of the future. So they're going to use this technology to try to manipulate, enslave, and basically control people as much as they can. But they will not be successful with me. They will kill me before I will allow them to manipulate and control me. Or, as you know, it's already in the Bible that, like, I may become imprisoned, wrongfully imprisoned, for things that I didn't do, or because man created some type of law that basically makes it illegal to tell the truth about anything. But it will be my sacrifice that will actually feed that light. And when the right people that God has chosen in this world to be a representation of Him, when they catch wind of everything that I've been saying, and then they see the aftermath of what happened to me, I will have sparked them to create a change. So they can go ahead and keep doing everything that they're doing, but I already know if something happens to me, in Deuteronomy it says, "Cursed be he who killeth thy neighbor in secrecy," and all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed be he who seeks the reward for the shedding of innocent blood, and all the people shall say, Amen. Cursed. They're already living their life in turmoil. To live your life glorifying violence, that's turmoil. That's inviting spirits to come after you. That's inviting for spirits to want to entangle with you. That's inviting for more violence to come in your direction. That's inviting. Me, I've done nothing wrong to anyone. I have been spending my life basically moving on my own accord. I don't take no peace away from anybody. And then if someone is actually, and if I happen to upset someone at some point, I'm usually the first to genuinely apologize, because I probably didn't know that I was offending the person or disturbing someone's peace. If you let me know that I'm disturbing your peace, or I'm doing something that, is basically disrupting you, then I would apologize and I would change. Because I like my peace too. So do unto others as you would want others, or as you would want others to do to you, or something like that. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, I'm gonna try to go back to sleep. I think I can go back to sleep. 3:20. Yeah, I could still try to get at least an hour and 10 minutes before my alarm goes off. So as you can see, 2 straight nights of dream manipulation. I don't even know if that video uploaded, but because they've been trying their hardest to not let that video upload. But yeah, maybe we do need a great earthquake. Maybe we do need a solar flare. Maybe we do need these calamities to happen, because that'll probably be the only way to actually bring equilibrium back to humanity. Because when God picks and chooses who he wants to survive those calamities, they will survive. Not to say that everybody who dies in a calamity were bad people per se, but people who survive calamities, like, if a boat filled with hundreds of people, dies, and then only 5 people survive, those 5 people were meant to survive for particular reasons. They have a purpose to fulfill in this world. So I have went 18 years without any true incidences, really. 18 years without experiencing or conducting myself in violent behavior, or even engaging in things that could possibly, land me, into situations I don't want to be in. So I guess after 18 years, and I'm 33 years old now, and it said that Jesus died at 33. I'm not calling myself Jesus, but I'm like, hey, Jesus was fully righteous and fully godly. Like, Jesus was on a whole different plane before he died. So I think to myself, I'm 33 now. So I'm like, Lord, if I live past 33, I'll take that as an accomplishment, especially after all this stuff has happened. Because I am going to be the biggest light that I could possibly be. I am going to try to make myself into the sun, so that whoever touches me, they will be incinerated by the light that I am producing. Now they're saying he has no idea this is a secret society. It's not as if people who were a part of secret societies don't go through calamities too. That's the part that they all seem to not understand. Remember, God chooses who can survive calamities and who doesn't. Calamities being house fires, house collapses, drowning in the ocean, a boat sinking, a slip and fall, being hit by a stray bullet. There's so many different calamities that could happen in a person's life, but you would never necessarily think to yourself or associate it with what you did to other people. And that's the beauty and the brilliance of how God works. Everything that you have been doing wrong in your life can all be stored up and saved for one fateful moment. Fateful moment. You may not even realize that you all, the gang stalkers, you all driving cars. You all drive over bridges. You fill your cars with your family. You all think you're about to go on a vacation somewhere. Everyone seems happy, right? Next thing you know, You get into a car accident. Everyone dies but you. And you are left paralyzed from the neck down. Now, you spent the majority of your life stealing, killing, doing everything to disrupt the peace of others. You have not been putting up any fight to try to fight against the spirits that are working within you. So now when this calamity happens to you, it's not even going to hit you yet. That everything that you have been doing in your life all culminated to that one fateful event. You will be responsible for everything wrong that happens in your life in the future. Because you put up not 1 ounce of fight against the dark spirits that are trying to work within you. You will be responsible for the death of your family. Because sometimes God don't even have to take you. God will take everything around you away from you. Just to punish you and to see if you'll ask for forgiveness and repent. All right. On that note, take life one breath, one thought, one step, one day at a time. Peace.